and welcome to this week's Slice of Advice. Sorry I wasn't here last week, I know, just reasons, but we are back this week, and this week we're going to be talking to a Melburnian friend of mine that I have who has disappeared over to America, to New York, and I'm really excited to get on a call with her because quite honestly, she's a little bit inspiring and she doesn't know her own magic. So I'm really excited to kind of start delving into that one. So before I start, as you know, I have a pricing calculator available on my website for you to work out the exact rate that you should be putting on your billable hour. So if you head to easiestpiepricing.com/calculate, you'll be able to access that for free, which is pretty cool. And if you have, let me know in the comments. Has it helped you? Has it helped you work out what your rate is? So I've just put in a request for Kiyashi to come and join us, which I'm very, very excited about. Can you tell? Can you tell? I also will let you know that I've just been recording a podcast episode with League, which will be released soon. So I'm very excited. But here she is! Hey girl, hey! Oh no, you're still quite quiet. It's okay. We're used to technical difficulties here, and now we're definitely dealing with technical difficulties because you have the circle. Just, hey.
Can you hear me? Hey.
Yeah, nice.
Sorry.
No, don't even. You're totally fine. Hi.
This is so crazy. I know I'm not, I was hesitant with a live because I'm just so afraid of what I'm gonna say. No filter, but
No, you are totally fine, and that's the beauty of this. This is where we kind of get to just have a chat, have an explore of what kind of makes us creatives. And the reason I kind of got you on here was realistically, yours is someone who has had a bit of a different journey, and is in a different space to most of the people. I'm sorry, I am listening. I'm getting up my questions. As someone that, you know, has had a different experience when it comes to the plan of life, and you've kind of done different directions. But it's, yeah, anyway, I'm not going to ruin it too much because I could honestly talk about you and your creative journey quite a bit because I've followed it for quite a while. I actually remember us sitting in a little cafe, pretty sure it was in Collingwood, and we were connected by a fellow friend who was just basically creating and organizing people to come together. And I remember sitting there like, hi, I'm making friends, this is all fun, everything like that. And then you've joined and I've been like,
oh, that was so nice. No,
and then we became really fast friends, which was awesome. But let's start with, for those who don't know you, give us a little bit of a intro to Kiyashi or Kathy. Please let us know which one you would prefer and what your journey has been so far.
Yeah, I'm Kathy, for those who kind of know me for a while, but I guess I go by the name of Kiyashi because it was kind of like, I can see my really good friend that I went to uni with, and it was a name that we kind of just birthed out of in design school.
Wow.
And I think we just didn't want to use our names for anything, and we kind of add this kind of like alter ego, which was kind of fun. But it kind of was from that, and obviously our love of Japan. But I'm a graphic designer and director. Just a weird jack of all trades. I hate that word sometimes, but I think your careers kind of spiral a little bit. So I've dabbled in a few things, but I would say designer and art director is probably my main thing, and I've been doing that for a couple of years, and now I'm teaching online. Currently teaching. I'm on my I'm sneakily
on your break.
on my break. But I teach online. Yeah, and I love it. I kind of fell into it, and it's been probably a really cool thing that I always thought I would love to do, but I didn't think I would do it right now and in New York. And
I can definitely attest to that feeling. That was me when I first started out in TAFE. Like I was always learning from the teachers who were doing the things that I wanted to do because they had that industry experience. They had that unique view of being able to deliver like real time experience. And I feel like that was so important when I was learning because, you know, those who can't be doing it teach it, but then there's also this other like hybrid, which is like they're doing it and they're teaching it and it's flowing really, really well.
Yeah, I think it's funny with teaching because I always just remember, not to name names, but just in my university, I don't know, my teachers weren't as passionate. I mean, they were great, but I don't know, and I just really admire, I guess, other creatives that love what they do, who would do this job for free, essentially. I know that we're about pricing and we're not about doing our work for free, but I think a really passionate designer and someone that loves what they do, I think is quite rare. And, you know, I think I was just craving that. So I think, I don't know, it just feels really nice to sort of be in that role and to sort of look back and remember. I always think that I'm still a student learning all the things. So
which we are. We kind of are.
We so are. I don't think anyone really knows what they're doing.
No, none of us do. We are all just not even faking it till we make it because we're doing the things that we're being taught. But I think we're all just constantly taste testing whatever our creativity, wherever our creativity takes us. And I feel like that's definitely something that you did. How many years have you been over in New York now?
In about 2 and a bit years.
Wow, that's insane.
I know. I mean, it's not that long in sort of like, I guess, New York terms, because a lot of people are here for 5 years, 10 years, but it feels long. And I think add COVID, it's like, whoa, it's like, I don't know,
it goes
like
quickly.
a decade.
And that was the thing. I think I actually remember us having chats over Instagram of you just going, so I'm going to go and teach in New York. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, what? You're going to do what now? And that was like, it's so interesting because we all sit there and go, okay, I have a certain pathway that I'm going to backtrack. I listened to a podcast episode earlier this week, and it was when we're younger, we build and design and plan this life for someone we've not even met yet. Like we have no idea who they are, what they'll like, what they'll do, and what they'll do well. And so it becomes this like, okay, when you're younger, you've planned the pathway and then we'll turn left here and everything like that. But once we start actually sitting in it and being part of that journey, we're then going, I actually think I like teaching. I actually think I hate doing logos. I think I actually hate love doing this and I hate doing that. And we try and like merge it all through. And I feel like that's what you did when you literally packed up your life and went to New York.
Nothing, I always say this out loud to people, I'm like, nothing is linear. Like even when I tell students about their kind of like career trajectory, it's not like most careers, I guess. There's this kind of like stepping stone to the top. I think creative careers are like that, and they go like this, and then you go down, and then you're just kind of still figuring it out. And I think, as kind of daunting as that may be for a lot of people, I think that's kind of the exciting part of just kind of being open to a lot of things, opportunities, people that you meet, and then as well as creatives, just your skills just kind of evolve. And I think from where I started, just trying to be a junior designer to work anywhere, and then to sort of really finding myself in branding in-house, and then here in New York teaching, and even calligraphy was something that I didn't even think about as a career. Like that was just like a fun hobby, and that has weirdly turned into this beautiful thing that I'm beyond grateful for. So yeah.
I definitely feel that. I had dinner with some friends over the weekend, and I told them that after I get married next year at the end of April, I'm
Yes.
taking a month off.
Yeah.
And they laughed and they laughed and they laughed. And then they said, I actually think that we're all going to start taking bets on when you'll start working. And if you do, when you do start working, you'll probably end up trying to turn it into something that then gets infiltrated into your business, or that you kind of create and recreate a way to integrate it. And I feel like that's the creative journey, is keep on trying all of the different things, see if it fits in the hole that you've created for it within your business.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't, leave it as a hobby. I have too many expensive hobbies. So I feel like if I can make some kind of ROI on them, that'd be fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah, you should. Definitely.
Exactly. So I wanted to kind of talk about a couple of the brands or brands you've worked with or within that people would know, because I feel like a lot of the time we sit there and like, oh, this kind of person has worked with these kind of brands and everything like that. And it's not necessarily about the big brands you work with or the small brands you work with, the different kinds. So I'd love to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think at first, like, if I want to speak to graphic design, like I never really was like, oh, I have to work for this agency, I have to work for this brand. Definitely as a junior designer, you're craving for experience and just an opportunity. So take it, because it's always a learning. And then I think as I sort of grew as a designer, I started to sort of build this kind of, I guess, design conscience of like, okay, so I've learned the things that I've learned as a junior. And I think when you're a midweight, you can start to really sort of see the kind of company that you want to work for. So, you know, it's such a privilege to just even have a job. But I think if you have that opportunity to sort of look for jobs that really suit your value as a person, I think it's super important. So it was one of those things where that was the first time where I was walking away from a job that was fulfilling financially, and all the things, but it wasn't the company or brand for me. And it felt so uncomfortable to walk away and to know that, okay, I'm going to go and possibly be unemployed, or try and freelance for a while. But I found working at Thank You, and it was just one of those things where it's like I opened myself up, and yeah, it was the brand for me. And yeah, again, it's just kind of like allowing yourself to sort of jump into the uncomfortable, but know that it's kind of like the right choice for you career-wise. And I think every designer has that. I think most designers kind of, you know, stick to roles within 3-4 years, whether or not there's progression or not. But I don't know, I never knew about that. I never knew that was something as a designer that you had to think about. I always felt like you just kind of like stuck at one job and that was it. And I think it's important that it's okay to sort of feel that, because I almost felt guilty for kind of like wanting more in terms of a job and a progression.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that I spoke about on my podcast with League that's coming out next month. I was talking to them this morning, and it's one of the traps that we fall into is we feel like the fact that we enjoy our job or we get to be creative is actually like applying a discount code, and that's like the exchange. We enjoy our job and therefore we should do it for the love, and it's not necessarily that. We're still worthy of a paycheck no matter what it is that we're doing. It just obviously just depends on what we're doing.
Agree.
And so I actually remember you and I chatting a little, like when you were back here, you were working at Thank You.
Yep.
And then during your lunch breaks, you were going across the road.
Yes.
And you were doing work for Lululemon, and you were like lettering for Lululemon. And this, like, to me, this is when you were like at your peak hustle of just like, I'm going to do this and that and that and that. And like, I remember sitting there being in awe, being like, look at her go. Look at her freaking go. I was so proud of you. So do you find that and this is one of the things that I think is really relevant to anyone watching, is just because you're working somewhere doesn't mean you can't be building stuff on the side or doing the things that are that make you feel passionate about. And they also then can start developing the next next parts, because I remember you doing like live lettering that got projected on a wall, and like you've created this kind of niche style. So talk to us a little bit more about that creative exploration outside the day job.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm such an advocate of like side hustles, or just things that sort of separate you from, I guess, your 9 to 5. Not that that's not a bad thing, but I also think that it's nice to sort of break away, whether it's, for me, it's calligraphy, it's writing, it's journal writing, it's doing something that's quite analog, because obviously being a designer, it's, 9 to 5 on a screen. And so that was almost like my therapy, just to sort of unleash all the kind of pixel email data, all the things that you're doing.
Yeah.
And then
all the KPIs and the customer journeys
and just we worked in Asana, and that was just kind of like my life. It's just like so many tasks. So I think have a side hustle if it's something that brings you joy. Why not? It's not hurting anyone. It's anything that's benefiting you. And I think that just allowed me to just sort of really put my energy into that. And I think, with work and skills, it really grows and shows. And then obviously I kind of developed a style. And then I just became like such an opportunist. I just said yes to everything. And someone was like, write for my wedding. Sure, I'll do that. Hey, do you want to write for this? Sure. And do
you want to write and we'll project it on a wall for an event?
It just kind of, I wouldn't say spiral, but it was just that kind of effect. And I think when you really truly love something, it becomes contagious. It's like kindness. It's like, being a really good team player. People really gravitate towards that. So I never really thought this big business plan, as much as I wish I had that kind of brain. I wasn't thinking that as a big business opportunity. I was more like, wow, people are really getting affected and loving my writing. Why not do more of it? And I think, those opportunities came. And then, Lululemon came during a coffee break that I had. And people who know me or who's watching knows that I'm super cheesy about, right time, right space, people that you meet. 11:11, like I'm exactly
the same. I'm just like 11:11, make a wish, and my partner's like, I wish we'd go to bed. Like, it's just totally understand.
So and I think it's just part of it. I think holding a lot of your creativity and your ideas inside, when there are so many creatives like yourself, Jasmine, who is just so like, let's talk about it, especially with pricing. I love everything that you're kind of doing, because I think pricing is something that is so taboo in the design world, because it's like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. It's like, well, had this discussion, or had we talked about pricing so early in the day, I think I would like, past me wouldn't charge $50 for a logo, which I have. I'm going to put it out there. And I put that as I still have that invoice. I'll send it to you after this, but it's just a reminder to go, Kathy, think about what you're doing. But you just didn't know when you go out of uni, or, we just don't talk about it enough, because it's almost like money is like this, oh my gosh. But I definitely think creatives aren't getting paid enough still. It's something that we always have to fight for and validate ourselves for, which is just ridiculous. And we should start a movement right now. Pay creators. Sorry, that's why I came on here, because I was like, we need to be paid more for sure.
Yeah, but I think it all goes back to and starts with us valuing ourselves enough to be paid what we're worth.
Yeah.
And I feel like that comes from confidence, experience, and not only just experience of years, but experiences. So like actually tasting all of the foods, seeing what you like, seeing what you don't like, and translating that. And that's honestly why I started talking about pricing, because it was something that people ran from. It was something that people felt uncomfortable about.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, one of the things that I know about branding, because branding has been my bread and butter pudding for a really long time. And one of the things I know about branding is touch points. And so a touch point is any time that a customer or potential client interacts with your brand. And the more touch points that happen, the better or higher likelihood that that person converts into a paying customer. And it's something like 8 to 10 touch points before they actually make a transaction, before that translates into a sale. And so part of that, I then went, okay, well then it means that it's going to take potentially 8 or 10 times that someone hears about pricing, that someone learns something new, that someone experiences something different about their misconceptions and preconceptions about pricing until they make a change in themselves. And I'm not here to potentially be like, money is everything. But if money has the potential to change your life just by changing one singular invoice and getting an extra $400, and that starts something, like that's so important. That's so important. That's like my biggest passion.
It's such like a psychological exchange of like, what can I do for you? I can do this. And it's just, you know, it's crazy, but it's one of those things where it's like, the more transparent you are and the more honest and genuine are of like, I know what I'm doing. I believe in this brand. I can give you this. And that's when it becomes really quite beautiful, when you do have clients that really understand, you know, what you do, as opposed to clients who kind of, which I totally understand too, businesses who are quite on a budget and don't have, a lot of money to spend on all the big kind of design thinking. And I do like to just ask clients straight up, you know, are you looking for a quick buck?
What's really the most important part of it? Like, what is the value base? What do you value in this transaction? Is it making it for the least amount of money? Is it having a high quality product? Is it having longevity? Like what is the main goal? And if they're like, oh, everything, you're like, no, start again. What is the one thing?
And if it's on the other side where I'm like, I literally just want a logo, I kind of tell them the options. I'm like, okay, there's this platform that does it for this much. There's this. I actually have stopped referring juniors, just because I also feel like juniors should be valued as well. I know the title is kind of like they're not experienced, but they probably put in 100 more hours than I guess someone that's a little bit more senior. And I always usually ask, if I refer to juniors, if they want the experience, make it very clear of what the budget is. But at the same time, you know, I've dealt with clients who literally would value you for like $10 and hope for the best, you know, and I don't like it. I just think that we're starting to, you know, that's a standard that designers are going to go, okay, that's acceptable, where I think designers should be like, actually that's not the standard rate. And if somebody is paying that much, then, you know, you can go to this platform and that's what it serves. But I think designers who really care about brands, who go in depth, who go research, who really go into what we are skilled, we really should,
regardless of their experience, they're still valuable.
Exactly. We really should have that standardized price. So
and then we get into all the extras of like standardized price based on demographic and place and client. And and this is why pricing is such a taboo topic, because no one really kind of, people expect you to have it kind of down when you're in business.
Not the case. No, I think my pricing, which was, you know, I'm still not good at it. That's why I'm watching your YouTube channel, because I'm just like, I'm forever like, oh man, should have done something different. But it's good. It's always good learning. I think it's, at the end of the day, if I can sleep at night with the quote that I sent, then that's fine. But
that's definitely it. So being that you are doing teaching now, are you still doing the whole teaching side hustle thing of doing some freelance stuff, or are you concentrating? Awesome. So with that freelance stuff,
I was going to say, I'm like such a weird breed of someone that just works all the time, but
you're not a weird breed. I recognize you. I see you. You see me. We both the same.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I totally understand it. And that's what the thing is, that pricing stuff has become my side hustle, baby. And then all of my client stuff. So managing the two worlds is always really interesting. But when it comes to your freelance stuff, how do you prefer to price?
Well, this is interesting. So when I was back home in Melbourne and I was kind of doing a lot more freelance work because I was kind of craving that kind of projects, I was definitely pricing quite high. But now that I guess because teaching has taken a lot of my time and my energy, I'm kind of really wary of what time I'm giving to clients. So I'm not as, I guess, I wouldn't say like as hungry as I was, as just trying to always get those freelance clients, because I'm quite time poor at the moment. But when I do take on projects, I know that I can give them, like, let's just say I have Fridays off, I can give them this. And I don't know, it's just like this balance. And I think
managing expectations of clients.
Yeah. And as much as I've kind of like, oh my gosh, I want to work on this, I'm also very aware and an advocate of mental health and not doing too much, because I think I did burn out at some point. When I was back in Melbourne, just doing all the jobs and trying to appease everybody. And then now, I guess being here, I'm learning to just, Sundays are, my day where I just do nothing. I go to a gallery. That's also, I think, important, just to sort of having that time to do nothing, which for ages, I always thought I had to do something, like constantly post a photo, constantly do this. And I think I just put that pressure on myself because I thought I'm a creative, and if I'm not, then I'm not doing, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not being relevant, or I'm not being like there. And I don't know, if anything, I've learned just to really pause and, I don't know, sit still, which is very hard for me. It's still very hard, but I think it is part of being a designer, is just, we can't do it all. And, it's okay to focus on the one. And for me, it's been a lot about like, teaching and mentoring and, all that kind of things that I've really started to enjoy. So yeah, I think freelancing has sort of changed my perspective a little bit as I've sort of gone older, but definitely the hunger was there. And I think, it could come again as well too, if, things change around. That's what I like about it. I think it's nice to have that, that feeling of like comfort and knowing where I'm at, and then, hey, it could flip on its head again and just go, wow, back in the game, hungry for clients,
I'm open again,
making contacts, I think that's good. It's nothing, nothing is always forever or the same. So it's,
it has a use by date. It has a best
before. Exactly. Yeah.
And then we just move on to the next meal. Alex Fort Driftwood says, Kathy is my creative hero. I definitely echo these sentiments because I think I was talking to someone, and I'm pretty sure that they're watching. I was talking to someone earlier about you today. And she's like, I've definitely put on the timer. I'm really excited that you're going to be talking to Kathy. She is wildly talented and incredible. And I was like, yes, I 100% agree. I 120% agree. And it's true. I feel like the more that we put out there, the expectation that we've put out there on ourselves are just like, if I don't do this, therefore people won't know that I'm this. How often do you think that about anyone else? Like, do you sit there and go, you know what? Lauren Holmer's decided that she's going to culinary school, so therefore she's no longer creative. Disagree, 100%.
Yeah.
She is so creative and such a talent and such an idol of mine. And you're also like within traveling distance from where she lives now. So like, that's a lot for me. I don't think I could be in New York for that mere fact. But just because we think others are putting those expectations on us, we need to try and take a second and be like, do I put that expectation on anyone else?
Yeah. It's all in here. It's all the narrative. I've spoken openly about this, about imposter syndrome and just that confidence, and it's all internal. And I think
so internal.
it's just built up of just, I guess, artists always putting their work out and just being judged and,
seeking validity from external circumstances. And
yeah, yeah. And I don't know how to cope with that. Again, something that I want to sort of tell my students about, because they're going through that, and, know that that's not, it's a common thing. I didn't know it was a common thing until somebody told me that. They pretty much diagnosed me though. They were like, you have imposter syndrome. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but it's annoying me all the time.
Yep. Mine is, I'm quite open and honest with it. I've been getting closer and closer to a potential ADHD diagnosis. And I feel like that's something that I'm starting to research and discover about myself. And, I was reading articles last night, and my partner was reading articles last night, and he said to me, like, this one paragraph, like, completely encapsulates you of, like, some days you will have this limitless creativity and limitless drive, and you will get so much done. And conversely, you will have debilitating imposter syndrome, and your worth would end up being intrinsically linked to your productivity. And if you don't, you set yourself unattainable goals, thinking not necessarily that they're not attainable, but that you can finish it in an afternoon. And it's like, and I was just like, okay, so I don't need to be attacked while we're watching Survivor reruns, but here we are, thanks.
Yeah.
And it's about kind of recognizing that it's part of it, and how do you work it in? How do you use your potential weakness as a potential strength?
Yeah, I know. Oh man, I used to just internalize it, like I do a lot of things, and I don't know, now it just becomes just a part of who I am, and understanding it and going and knowing the flags of, like, okay, I'm feeling this way, feel it. I journal a lot, so I write it down, or I'll talk to my friends. I think that's also great too, just having that network of designers who actually know what you're going through and can always be there to support you. Even if they're not creative, I think it's really good just to sort of talk about it. And then I don't know, it just kind of minimizes it a lot. I'm not saying that it's going to go away, my like insecurity and all that kind of things, but it's nice to know that I can openly talk about it with really great people. And it's not about, I guess, validation of whatever you're doing. It's just more like, oh, I can see what's happening. Let's unpack it. Let's talk it through. But it's so important. I can't stress how important it is, because it does. It links with mental health. It links with just, how we are day to day, and how this really affects who we are and the people that, we're with as well too, is really important.
So important. I actually feel like it's really important to have two kinds of flavors of friends. You have like your creative friends who are going through the same things and same experiences, and you can have these really specific talks as in addition to your general how's everything going, how's life,
Yeah.
But then also surrounding yourself with people who are non-creatives but give you the opportunity to see your own magic. This is like my key thing of like, I've got friends of mine who are definitely not in that creative field, but I really enjoy my time with them because they give me the space to show my own magic, or to show my own kind of unique view that isn't as magical to the creatives, because we're all in it. We all understand what it's doing. And I feel like those are the two kind of real key things that have made a big difference for me.
Yeah. Creative friends. Oh man, like I hold them so dear. And even like being so away, I can't even tell you, like I've made connections on Instagram from people that I haven't even met, but just knowing their work and just kind of like the same thing, and just, I guess, also sharing the work on Instagram has been so amazing. The fact that I think this is showing my age, pre-Instagram, where we didn't have that. We didn't have a platform to share work.
And yet we were,
yeah, I know. But it's so funny because I teach and I feel so ancient. So I'm always just like, wait, do you guys know
back in my day, we weren't doing Figma and Illustrator. We were doing page layout and Quark. And I'll tell you right now,
we don't speak of those programs because they're just like, what? But yeah, I think about those times, about just, we just didn't have that kind of accessibility to people. And I've met the most incredible creatives, thinkers, designers, you know, who are willing to share their work for free on Instagram. And I think it's such a beautiful thing. I know some people have, there's, you know, social media itself can be quite a beast, but I think if you really curate it, which I do, my Instagram is heavily curated, but even curate it to the people that you follow. And I follow really great people that inspire me to be better, who teach me things like yourself. And yeah, it's really great. And I never thought that was a thing.
Same
and
way.
As much, and I'm a, oh man, I heard of the word today. It's not, I'm not an introvert, but I'm also not an extrovert. It's like is it an ambivert? I don't know. But
I just
I'm
say
not,
I'm an artrovert. I guess get my energy and my joy from when I create.
I'm like, I can't do really big social, like I go to social things all the time, but I'm like not in it. Like I'm not like the go-to party, but I'm also very quite introverted and I love one-on-ones. I'll also phantom if it's a big party. So I'm that person that loves their alone time, but I'm also quite aware of social things. So for me, Instagram has been quite nice because I get to kind of meet people on just a you know, creative basis, and yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and creating those networks and those spaces, and
yeah,
like if you're wanting to create like a mastermind of people who you know would all benefit from each other, like it's almost like going back to high school. And I went to an all girls high school, so we're not going to even talk about that. But you are legitimately curating the 5 people that you want around you that you can talk about and share and express.
Yeah.
And have these experiences that then go on. And I watched a video yesterday which is like the human capacity is only able to make either 50 or 150 genuine connections. And so when you're in social media, you're expected that that's going to be way more. And so I feel like we're all being very specific and being very mindful that we want to have those connections, not only to share experiences but to help us and each other grow, have opportunities where you can message and say, hey, I was going to charge this much for this job. Does anyone think this is too much? Does anyone think this is not enough? This has any, or hey, everyone, I just quoted this on this job. If they go to any of you guys, this is what I quoted. Feel free to either charge more or charge less or charge the same. And we can all kind of benefit at the same time. And I used to actually have a couple of those groups, like WhatsApp groups with that sort of stuff. And it was kind of like a vetting client syndrome sort of situation.
Yeah. It's so good though, because you're looking for information and research. And I think, the more that creatives can kind of help each other and support each other, especially like, pricing, invoicing. Hey, has anyone ever done this kind of job before, or
worked for this client, and what did you charge last time?
And it's just like, it's only going to help and benefit the creative community that that we really build ourselves up and value ourselves. So I'm such an advocate of just reaching out to designers or people that I admire just on the DM, because I'm like, well, if they say no, or if they ignore it, it's fine. But more often than not, I've definitely
got responses.
I think creatives are so empathetic because we've all been there where we've known no one, and we just
we want to be the person we needed.
Exactly
Most definitely. So what's the best lesson that you've learned when it comes to pricing?
Oh gosh, I think when it comes to pricing is just like kind of, I guess I get scared of scaring away the client. So, and not even like thinking about what I'm actually delivering. So that's been actually the biggest lesson of just being, Kathy, what are you providing? You have so much experience, skill, and everything that you have kind of built, and really standing by that and kind of giving a quote with kind of more of a conviction rather than hey, like, but we can budget the quote. Never do that. I think I said that once and they were like, let's budget by like $500. And I was like, damn it. Whereas the quotes that I have just felt very confident with and was like, yep, no holding back. They were the ones that actually went through, and you know, there wasn't that kind of back and forth bargaining. It's when I'm hesitant, and that's just because I'm just either not confident, or I'm intimidated by the client, or I'm kind of semi-desperate of like, I really want this job. Learning to sort of add that psychology into pricing, I think, has been the biggest learning, because I've seen it so many times through people that I admire, where they're just like, here's a logo, bang, that's the price, no questions asked. And hear me shaking as a junior, just being like, oh my gosh, please take it. And I think I never knew that, like, just understanding that confidence is so important when you're pricing, like backing the work that you're doing. So yeah, and it's taken me a long time to sort of get there. And even with calligraphy, like, I think I had no idea how to even price that, like, because it was so, I mean, you know, we both do lettering, and it is effortless, and it is so, you know,
it's only effortless because we've done like 72 million hours sitting in front of TV reruns just practicing an R.
Right. And explaining that to clients, which feels just so quick, like but I like not quoting on time, quoting on skill and value that it's taken me how long to perfect this kind of work. But again,
if you want to pay for hours, you do it.
Yeah,
you do it.
But it's definitely been trial and error. Like, I think anyone that's going through pricing and understanding what their best price is, hourly rate and extra, I think it is, you've just kind of got to go and see what works for you. But yeah, if anything, if you could build some confidence into your pricing and how you price, then you're pretty much a step ahead of definitely me, because it's taken me a long while.
So is that kind of what you would say, like, when it comes to pricing, what you tell your students is just like, lead with confidence?
I mean, we also have to teach them what they're pricing on as well too, whether it's hourly, whether it's kind of like a set package rate. But we don't teach, unfortunately, because we're teaching them so many programs and briefs and folio to get a job, that I think, you know, that in itself deserves a bit of a course, if anything, of like how to price yourself. Segue to slice of advice. But yeah, like,
I love that. You're like, okay, and I've set you up for what is your cause.
But yeah, it's so true. We could spend, I don't think we could spend a day on just talking about pricing. It is just, you know, unpacking what you're pricing at, what your hourly rate is, talking about setting up an ABN, you know, what exactly is the brand requirements. You're not just creating a logo, you're creating assets. What are the, you know, all those touch points, and, you know, but we definitely
send a logo as a JPEG connected to an email and think that that's the end of the conversation.
Like, we definitely prep students that there's so much to learn outside, but we definitely are focused on making them designers. But yeah, the business side, man, I really do wish I took kind of like a business elective in uni, because I just kind of went out in the world and I was like, okay, now what? What do I do? How do I do this? Like, yeah. So,
yeah, we've definitely both been those situations. And like over the last 14 years, the last 7 of those for me have been freelance, and the 7 before that were being in business. And so when it came to being freelance, it was like, oh, why is it so hard to put a dollar amount on my skills and my time and my effort and my energy? And it's like, well, because you've never had to do it before. Like, it wasn't taught to you, and you're trying your best with what you have. And I definitely felt like that was, you know, a big learning curve. And I think the other thing for me was that not every single client needs to be charged the exact same way, nor pitched the exact same way, because some want a set of deliverables to fit into a budget, and some want options. So like, hey, do you want the small, medium, or large meal? Like, which way do you want to go? And then they might go, I want the small meal, but can I just have the large fries and get rid of the drink? And then, like, you know, it's a part of a negotiation and a back and forth. And so I find it really interesting that, you know, learning those key things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what a whole negotiation is, a whole week dedicated in my course releasing next year.
Yeah.
The Easy as Pie Pricing Degustation course, 12 weeks.
Wow.
It's going to be so cool.
I'll probably sign up. I'm still
I'd love to have you. And so it's so important to understand that it's like you can give yourself as many ingredients as possible and like set yourself up to be baking perfectly of like what is your rate and how are you going to charge, but you've got to also get your hands dirty and you've got to start like actually having those experiences so that you grow, so that you can charge more, so that you can work up from that. And like I had the exact same thing of like when I finished TAFE, they were like, I said, well, how much should I be charging per hour? And he's like, $35. And it's like, yeah, okay. And I remember doing that for the first couple of years, I think. And then I actually had a client come back to me after like 8 years, only just recently. And I looked back on the invoices and I was like, oh, that was around the $35 time.
Yeah.
Ooh, they're not going to like what quote I'm going to give them. They're not going to like it because I'll be completely honest with everyone right here. It was $200 an hour. So a jump from $35 an hour to $200 an hour for their particular situation that they needed, that they could deliver. The fact of the matter is I've gotten faster, I've gotten better, and it's actually probably going to be the equivalent of I can do what I could do in 4 hours in 1 hour now. And so basing things on an hourly price is not necessarily going to make you the dollars. It's not necessarily going to be a situation where you're going to be getting the best return for your time.
No.
And these are hard lessons we learn very quickly.
Yeah. I also find like it's just, it's okay that your price changes, over, X amount of like years that you've worked. Also, it's okay that you charge friends. I think that's also super important because I think that's something that I've learned along the way of that awkward pricing with mates. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, I think it's still something that you have to do because it's always so a little bit awkward. But yeah, just knowing that you have value in terms of your work and things that you do. So
Absolutely. So question for you, if you could go back to Kiashi 1.0, whichever place you like to pick up from in your experience so far, what piece of advice would you give her?
My gosh, Kiashi 1.0. I mean, to be honest, like she is
the alter ego. I feel like it would be alter ego and then we do one for Kathy because I feel like they're different people.
Do you know, because I felt like Kiashi just didn't really give a shit and just was like, I'm going to be doing
my goodness, I'm imagining you like turning up with like a full belt of pens being like, let's do this.
I honestly,
I'm just like
I don't even know. Like, I think because I started riding on the train because it took me like 45 minutes to get to Doncaster. It was ridiculous. But I think I was just riding just for the sake of it. And I think there was just something therapeutic in it. And I didn't care. And I just was like, I'm doing this. I'm sharing it with everyone. I think at the time I was like sharing it on Facebook. I think I created like some kind of Facebook group called Create Project. And then Instagram came and I was like, I'm just going to share it there. Put some cheesy quotes, maybe for like 5 of my friends, and that's it. And I think I really love that attitude of I just really didn't care about anybody or think about, who's seeing this. It was purely for me and my few friends. But designer me, I guess you would say, Kathy, was like so nervous, so paranoid of my work. I hated the folio that I came up with out of university. It was not the best. I also was so fatigued because I had done like a TAFE course, a uni course, and I was craving to travel. So yeah, it was just like I guess I was just super awkward and just kind of like venturing into this adult life of like, okay, so when do I get my career? And, like any starting out graphic designer, it's not like, okay, well, for some, it was like, oh, they got their dream job and that was it. Like I really had to hustle. I was working retail jobs. I was doing every
Barista.
21st invite I could get my hands on. I was just, and I actually kind of like that as well too, that kind of hunger, because I was literally just wanting this job and this career so much. And I don't know, it just makes me, I guess, proud that I kind of stuck to it, because like anyone, I wanted to quit. I was like thinking, why couldn't I just choose an easier job? Something that it's like, because back then, getting a design job in an agency was just like so slim. And you would see so many other sort of all the conferences, and I would see these cool people doing these cool things, and it just felt so unattainable to not, that I was like, I can't even get there. I can't even reach to that point. So to go back to your question, what would my advice be? I guess, just to keep going. I think that's always been my mantra of things, of just to keep going, keep trying. You love it in a weird way, as all the rejections and everything that's sort of come my way. I've weirdly still enjoy being a creative, meeting creatives, putting out my work, even though I think I just kind of flipped it, where it's like, it's not really about being the best. It's being good. It's doing good. And the people that I met along the way, who I guess kind of like morphed my design, I'm grateful for. So, I don't like, thinking about the past of regrets and stuff. So I always feel like those weird, awkward, I'm not good enough times, I think that's all kind of, I guess, character building. And I'm still going through that too. Like I'm still always trying to just push my work and my ideas as much as possible. So, I mean, that's what we're here for, right? We're not here to sort of be number one. I'm here to try and make a difference as much as possible. So
yeah, definitely. Like I have a friend of mine who's learning how to sing at the moment, and I said to her, so what's your motivation? Why do you want to do it? She goes, I just want to be the best. And I was like, but what does that give you? What does that get you? What does that get you? What does being the best get you? Does it actually get you enjoyment? Does it get you that thing that you are chasing? What is it that you're chasing? So I think that's really important, that we're not trying to be the best, we're just trying to be the best us, and that's all that's really mattering. Now, before we go, we do have one quick question from Alex Fort Driftwood. He asks, why are we laughing? Is this someone we know?
Yeah, she's a very good friend of mine in Melbourne, and I don't have my glasses, so I'm kind of
you could. Like So what advice can you give young designers who are being massively overworked and underpaid by big corporations?
Oh gosh. Question time. My gosh, junior designers, like I really wish that there was just kind of like some kind of union or support group, because I was I was that junior designer that was working for a high agency for very little money, and I had no one to talk to because I was intimidated and I thought I was going to lose my job. I thought that was going to be career over. And I think, if anything, I can only assume that the industry is kind of changing a little bit more now, that I guess, the title of junior is just, it shouldn't be like, oh, they're a junior, you can just, give them everything. Like I really do fight for junior designers who can do everything, but they should be paid. But I would say speak up. I think that it's always sometimes a risk. But I think, find out, look at that job description of what you're doing. And if you are doing beyond that, then that's when you need to sort of raise it to either your senior. It's very valid, but also it's that having that voice. So talk to someone, reach out to a creative who's in the business as well too, because I think mentorship is really important as well. But yeah, I can totally relate, because I was that junior designer for 2 years, and it was actually really hard to walk away. but I think it taught me the most valuable lesson, and that was to value myself.
Absolutely. And it's also recognizing that, like, yeah, you can have the voice and stand up, but also, like, if the worst case scenario happens, if you get fired or you no longer work there, they're not the only company. They're not the only place in the world. There's companies out there that do value, that do support, that do help their staff. Like, it's definitely not the only job that you're ever going to get. I can promise you that right now. And there's so many other companies that would be willing and able to have you and will actually value you much more than a toxic place. And I definitely was there. That was my last full-time job. I was one of 4 women in a 20-strong company. And I honestly don't believe, I believe that the workforce works best when it's equal pay, but also equal representation. I don't think an all male or all female is ever going to work. I think it's really the best way to work is when we're all coming together with all our different ideas. But unfortunately, like, it was just a really terrible place for me. And I left due to basically they didn't show good on their agreements. Like I said, at 6 months, I want to be paid the number I actually came in on. And at 5.5 months, they said, no, we're not going to. And so I left. And that started my transition into freelance. That started that. And so, you know, you might be walking away from something that feels safe, that feels secure, and that you should be thankful that you've got a job. And yes, there is an element of that. But if it's going to affect your mental health, if it's going to mean that you can't be you, it's okay to speak up and to understand that it's not the end of the world if you no longer work there.
I think you said something in that, in terms of just, I guess, workplace of, you know, the dynamic and culture. I think that's also something that, you know, we need to, like, well, what we tell our students, you know, when you're looking for jobs, you know, you're also interviewing that workplace. You know, just because you're a junior designer, you can also find out, okay, what's the culture like? You know, how many designers are in a team? You know,
how did your company respond to COVID-19, and how did they actually support your staff through that situation?
I think if I asked those kind of questions, kind of like going into certain jobs that I went into, it would have been good. I think I kind of just went in blindly. Whereas, you know, now I think it's so important to just, you know, ask those questions. Is this the kind of company that aligns with my values as well? You know,
and remembering an interview is a conversation, it's not an audition.
Exactly. And I think it is. You get into that mindset of like, I want that job, but also just knowing kind of like what you're walking into. I think that's super important, and something that I never really thought about when I was job hunting when I was young. I was just like, you know, whoever,
I need a job.
I'll go, and to an extent, you know, we do. You know, you want that financial stability. And sometimes it's kind of like, okay, I always say this sometimes with jobs. I'm like, let's see what 6 months is. Let's see what a year is. I never kind of go, okay, I'm going to give, you know, this
5 years
company. But yeah, exactly. You really do have to figure it out. And that's okay. I think that's, you know, we're entitled to that. So
approach it the same way you approach relationships. Like, you're not going necessarily in it for the long haul. And that's probably like different to some of the way that people work. But even with my wonderful partner, we will have been together 10 years by the time we get married. And we're getting married by our primary school teacher. I'm very excited. But the way that we both approached it is like, we have check-ins, we have points where we reassess, is everything working, is everyone happy? And whatever those milestones end up being for you, like 6 months, a year, 2 years. We even had for our first year of our relationship, every month we had a airing your grievances dinner. Like, has there been something that's pissed you off that I've done this month? Have you done something to piss me off? Let's like get it out, get it done, and then like reassess and keep going. And the same thing should be doing for your career progression as well. If you're not happy and not getting the progression that you're wanting, if you're expecting to be a senior designer within 6 months, and if that's not going to be attainable, then it's really difficult to keep going without that check-in.
Yeah. I always have that gut feeling. I don't know where it comes from, but it's just like I'll be working on something. Yeah, it's right there. And then I'm just like, I just don't, and I can kind of tell it in the way, I guess, I'm so intuitive with my moods and my feelings and just how the mood is. I don't, such an empath, and I'm just like, yeah, this definitely is a sign for change. And you know, listening to that and being like, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? Because I also don't believe in just being like, well, this is it, this is my life. It's like, no, it's like you're feeling uncomfortable, you're feeling unhappy, you know, let's address it. As uncomfortable as it is, I'm always just like, oh, okay, let's try and figure it out. And more often than not, things change and work for the better. And it was actually like my last job. I was just so like, oh my God, I love working. I love the people, but I creatively am not where I want to be. I'm not challenged. I'm not kind of thing. And I think that's probably the most difficult thing, is walking away from things that where you're truly happy and content, but yeah, know that you're ready to move on. And it was actually heartbreaking because I had to say goodbye to some beautiful people. But knowing that I was kind of like doing it for myself as well, could only benefit the people that around you, you know, people will support you no matter what. And I think moving here has taught me and a lot about support, and I'm just grateful, I guess, you know.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. This is actually, I actually find it really interesting because it's something that you and I have talked a lot about, of like having you on the Slice of Advice, and you've been like, but I see your magic. I know exactly what kind of magic you're going to show. And the fact of the matter is, most superheroes can't see their capes because they're flying away. Like, they can't actually see their magic. So I'm so glad that everyone got to see your magic today.
Thank you. I know. I was definitely sure it was tomorrow. So I was like, okay. And then you saying it's tonight, and I'm like, okay, I've totally messed up the time. And
we're all good. We're here, and that's all that matters.
The last IG, the last IG live I did was in Hawaii, and I was drunk. And I was just mortified, but us at the same time very funny. So this has been good. No alcohol has been consumed, but I'm glad I did it.
It's late for you, so you could have just been like, tequila, let's do this.
I know. Well, I don't judge anyone who's drinking right now in class, so it's fine. Got to do what you got to do to get through.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining me. For those who are still on the live, thank you for making it all the way to the end. I love that you've joined, and please give some love hearts and some likes for the lovely, lovely Kathy of Kiyashi Osato and Kiyashi Writes. If you are someone who struggles with your pricing and struggles with the numbers that you can put on your billable hour, I highly recommend you jump on my free pricing calculator, which is easyaspricing.com/calculate. I cannot wait to see you guys next week in next week's Slice of Advice. Kathy, my darling, don't ever lose touch with me. I am so glad I'm having you in my life, and have a great night.
Anytime. Love from New York. I miss you, Melbourne.
11/11, guys. Bye.
Bye.